Good day, good day, good day, everyone. It is the Impact Podcast Day. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope all is well with you. It's been a busy day, but I have my sister here with me. Damaris is on, coming from a phenomenal conference, and maybe she'll tell us a little bit about it. We'll check in a second. How are you, Damaris? Damaris, can you hear me?
I could
All right,
hear you. Yes, my apologies for having my phone off. If I do get to, middle of this beautiful land in Lancaster. So I'm gonna try for a minute. You guys. Hello, everyone.
Yes, thank you. It was a little trouble, but you're traveling. You're traveling, right?
I am. But you know what? I can actually park. I'm just looking for a place to park where there is no horse and buggies.
Okay. All right. Let me know when you're safe.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
bounce it back to you in a sec. So what we actually did, had someone respond to the last podcast and ask us about talking about the ethnic makeup of our enrollment. So if you missed the last episode, go back and check it out. We talked about the business side because it's the beginning of the school year, and we were talking about enrollment and staffing and things like that, which we typically talk about, which is huge in our business. So we spoke about that last episode, and the question was about, okay, you guys have enrollment, you're full. What does it look like in regards to your demographic? What's the makeup? And we were like, cool, we'll talk about it next episode. And that is this episode. And so, what we're talking about today is exploring the tapestry of your business to increase enrollment and employment. I wanted to share with you guys what tapestry actually means. And I had it up. Where did it go? Because I think it's really important about what we're talking about, and it nailed it. Um, so tapestry, it is an intricate or complex combination of things or sequence of events. And so an example is the tapestry of cultures, races, and customs. And why is that important and why are we talking about it? Because it ultimately is saying take a look at the makeup of your businesses, ethnic demographics, the culture, um, all of the diversity that your business has so that it ultimately can speak to your enrollment, your employment, your clients. You need to understand who it is that you're serving so that you can respond accordingly. And by doing that, understanding who is a part of your business or who you are serving, you can actually be a lot more effective in servicing them. So I love the question. And here's what it made me think about, because I simply shared that we were fully enrolled at one site, pretty much enrolled at the other. We had we basically had our data. And I thought about this. The past 3 years, we had a high increase in our Asian population and our Hispanic population. So first, it was the Asian population. When I say it went from, look at my numbers. So it went from 12% to 30% in a 3 year span. And so we started looking at, okay, what created this jump in our enrollment in the Asian community. So we noticed that our community around us was changing. We are tapped into our Northeast Business Association, so we understood that there was an increase there. But then we came to find that a lot of the families who were enrolling their children, they then passed the message on to their neighbors and families. So that was huge in regards to trust, respect, and diversity. appreciation, because they showed a lot of appreciation for the fact that we were caring for their children. And so we were like, okay, trust and community in their culture is huge. And so that in itself was like tapping into the fact that this culture was really big on that, and now they're passing the message on. That's why we increased. And then we actually saw the percentage of our Asian population increase a little bit, and then we had a spike in our Hispanic community. So now that meant I had to start thinking about that when I was hiring, because now we needed to translate. We needed to really understand what it is that our Spanish speaking children and families needed. So that created a new space of our hiring and retention strategies, as well as being able to understand what the children and families needed. So again, when the question was asked, and it was like, okay, we'll talk about the demographic side of it, I then started thinking about how we really did had to change our marketing strategy, as well as our hiring strategies, so that we could speak to the demographics that we are serving. So Damaris, I don't know if you are in a space now where you can talk, because I know that you also have a really diverse population. Are you available? Whenever you are, just unmute and jump in. Just jump in. So this is what I'm going to do too. I had up here, I don't know if you guys do this or not, and if you don't, I would definitely suggest that you do. I'm not sure what kind of system that you use to maintain your
Can you hear
data.
me? It's like,
Oh, I can. I can.
oh, okay. I'm
Oh, it's so tough. Oh, it's really choppy. I can't hear you. No, say something else. Yeah, it was going in and out. I couldn't really hear you well. All right. Hopefully it improves on her end, and then Damaris will jump back in. What I was getting ready to say was, if you, all right, she jumped out, she'll jump back in. If you do not have some type system, I don't care if it's you writing it down and counting, right? Depending on what your enrollment is, it may not be, for example, we have two sites, 158 capacity, the other is 198 capacity. So we don't monitor that by hand. We totally have an electronic system. So if you don't have one, please get something to where as though you are able to monitor your data and actually count what your enrollment is. I'm sorry, my family was looking for me. Okay. Yeah, I'll give an example of the system we have. So we have a system. Every time we enroll a new family, we actually capture the data. Boy, girl, the language that they speak, their background, their ethnicity. We are also tracking if they have IEPs or not. We are, of course, tracking their languages, the funding sources, their age group, and their meal subsidy. We're tracking all that. Why? Because when it is time to, I'm so sorry, it was an emergency. I'm getting a text. Okay. When it is time for us to report to our funding sources, these are the things that are required. So I can literally pull up my report and say, I'll give CACFP, for example, the food program, they literally require us to say what is our city demographics, and then what is our center. So in order for us to be compliant with our food program, which is a funding source for us, we have to be able to report this. The other thing is when we are hiring for staff, like I mentioned a few moments ago, I know that no, we cannot hire all the staff to match the number of families that we have from every culture. We're not able to do that. So we don't attempt to do that. However, what we do is um, as much as we can, when I mentioned to you guys the influx of Spanish speaking families as well as the Asian community, then if we couldn't hire a staff person who would be able to translate or even help us understand the culture better, then we started looking for like an advocate. We had trusted um, family members or previous parents that we had created great relationships with, who had serviced and volunteered while they were a part of the program. And we asked if they were willing to stay a part of the program and just continue to support. And the amount of yeses that we had gotten had been really, really amazing. So if you do not have the staff that is fully reflective of the families that you have, you can ask previous families, volunteers, advocates. There's also a tool the school district has. If you're like a partner, I'm not even sure if you have to be a partner with them or not, but I know they have the service to where as though there's translation services. So there are ways for you to still be able to connect with families and children who may speak another language. Damaris, I think you're back.
Are you able?
Can you hear?
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, there we go. Yep.
I'm so sorry. I don't know how fast. I mean, how long I'm gonna have internet, but
Yeah, so go ahead. Go ahead, jump in. I was
talking
just
about
asking about your
the
demographic as well.
differences.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So we have two sites. They're 1 mile away from each other, and the demographics are so different amongst both of them. And it's only one
Mhm,
mile. It's only one
mhm.
mile.
Yep.
Um, we have about 32% enrolled demographics that are Hispanic. We have about 18% Asian population. And this is in one site.
Yeah.
And we have the rest is white. And here's to our surprise, in one of our centers, we only have 8% African American.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and
Yes.
our
Uh,
main one, our larger
and
site was majority black, and now they are actually the well, at this point they got back to second majority. They were third. They were third last year. It's so interesting.
yeah, we always go through an influx every year. I'm sorry. Every year is always different, right? So we always go, we have a larger Asian population, and the next year we'll have like a larger Hispanic population. In one of my sites, we have an increase of uh,
Oh
Arabic
yes.
families coming
Mhm.
in. Yes, so that's new. So what we do internally is that we look at our populations, and then we hire folks that are be able to interpret or translate and be representation inside our facilities, that represent the children that we serve. And if we
Yes.
can't find staff, because staffing is almost impossible for everyone in this field and many others, we tap into the families. We tap into the
Exactly.
families. So how does that look like supporting within the classrooms, the organization, that everything, the food that we serve,
Yeah.
everything is, we really take a look at how are we supporting our families, and we're not
Yeah.
talking only about races. We're not talking about just religion. We're also talking about different things too. I have a high population of vegan families, and our
Ooh, that's
CACFP
new.
program does not support that food, and to me that's inequitable, right? Why are
Yeah.
we not supporting them? So we actually left our current state sponsored food program, and went with a food program that's going to support those families and bring vegan meals, vegan options into our menu, so that way those children and those families are included. Because that's not inclusion, guys, right? If we're serving,
Yes.
free meals to every family, and then a certain people aren't being let out or being financially burdened to bring in meals because they're they choose to become a vegan. That's not took on this year. And I'm really happy that I was able to provide and fill the gap to that service. So
That's a great point.
yeah, when you're tapping into your demographic, and the people that you serve, you got to kind of think of in a home, right? Not It's not about language. It's not only about language.
No.
It's about really making them feel. We talk about diversity and equitable practice. There's a big missing behind that, and that's belonging. And I feel like a lot
Belonging.
of people miss that belonging. And what does it mean
Yeah.
to belong into an organization, right? That
Yes.
representation. Um, we're real big on raising leaders, but
Yeah.
I personally don't want to have children see their representation in lower end jobs. I'd rather them be teachers or,
Yes.
in a leadership role, not only right. And
Oh, it's starting to break up again. You still moving?
one of the challenges that we have is, are you able to?
I can hear you now. Oh, I was able to hear you. You were saying something about the challenge you guys are having. Try now, Damaris.
Oh, shouldn't have taken that bridge. Can you
Uh,
hear me?
I can. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I, I shouldn't have went over that bridge. Okay. Um, One of the challenges, and this is going to be a juicy conversation,
Uh
and
oh.
I'm just going to be as transparent as possible, is that my I have a director in my facility, and she's African
Uh-huh.
American, and she's a phenomenal director. She's really great, a wonderful leader. And what I've noticed, because she is, sorry, right? And
Oh, oh, okay. We can't miss the juicy part. It broke up. You were saying she's a phenomenal director, but
listen, no, she's a phenomenal director. But one of the challenges that she's having is families don't come to her to talk to her. She'll open up the door, some families, right? And it's majorly the Hispanic families.
I was going to ask, was it a particular demographic that's not going to her? So she's a
Yes,
director.
it's mainly the Hispanic families. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
we have, from that large Hispanic families, she has tried every angle to try to connect. She'll come to them, she'll come with transfer as well, because we have people in our facilities. And yeah, with yeah,
Ooh,
and I had to
I'm
really
hoping they
sit
come back.
down and think about
Oh, it's breaking up again. Can you hear me?
how I Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, go
Hello?
ahead. It was breaking up, but now it's back.
About how I make her feel, right?
Gotcha.
And put myself shoes where that must be very frustrating. And I said to her, you know, it's a cultural thing, right?
Yeah.
And you have to understand that people, Spanish people, when they are around Spanish people, they only want to deal with Spanish people, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
Asian population is like that as well.
yeah. Yeah. And it's so interesting. The one thing I know, right? I'm the executive director, and I have other admin. I also have teachers
Exactly.
who have leadership skills, great leadership skills.
Tell you guys that that's
Oh,
something
it's going in and out. You
we're
probably can you hear me?
evaluating. I
Hello?
can hear you.
Okay. I think we both were talking at the
Yes, I can
same
hear you.
time. I was like, go ahead.
Sorry.
Because I want to be able to
I'm
catch
gonna
what
mute
you
now. I'm
can.
gonna mute.
No. I wanted to because it had paused and I was like, I don't want to just keep it paused. But what I was saying, I know for myself, right? Whether this is the thing, whether it is about culture or not, right? There's times when I can tell that I am not the person for that moment, for that family, for that situation. There are times that, yep, I'm the director, but we may have someone who has a better connection or is better suited to have that conversation to continue to build the trust that we need in the organization. Um, we do have, like I mentioned to you guys, the spike in the Hispanic community. We do have Spanish speaking ad, admin and teachers. And so we utilize those who have really been able to lend a helping hand. I made sure that I literally sent them individually cards this week saying thank you because I'm so appreciative of their willingness to not just translate, because honestly, it is not just about here's what they said and it's passing back and forth. There is this empathy shown um, in the meantime, as well as a connection that they share with us so that we can understand kind of what the disconnect may be. And so that literally happened this week where it's like, okay, it was about a child who has special needs, and we're really trying to work together with the family, but definitely a language barrier. And in us having this conversation where this teacher was translating, we really got to identify trauma from the teacher and trauma from the parent, that it's like you both are saying the same thing. But what that took was us sitting down, and this conversation went on for an hour, where there were connections as well as an attempt to problem solve and support and help advocate. And all of that was happening not just through translation services. So I'm not always just looking for someone, can you just translate? I need to kind of
Yeah.
understand what are we
You need to
possibly
connect them.
missing
Yep.
culturally,
Yep.
right? Because some of it we just, I had one of my admin team members before was like, let me tell you about our culture, because and that's what we need, is not just, again, sometimes, right, Google Translate, we all have it, but there's some things in there that, of course, Google Translate is not going to help you connect. It's going
No,
to help
you definitely. I'm parked now, so hopefully you guys can hear me. My
you sound great.
apologies. Yeah,
Yes.
it's great, great. I think I got a good little section here.
Okay.
Um, but I agree with you. Aaliyah, there it has to be a connection, and I want to go back because I was probably choppy about the story
Yes.
of my director, but. With my director, I had to have a conversation with her because she was feeling, she was feeling really bad about this. And I said, there is a cultural, and you have a challenge here because we're one of the very few sites in Philadelphia that has every culture.
Mm,
So our program is so
yeah.
diverse, and our families are so different, and we have to learn how to tap into it. I said, and you have to learn how to choose your battles,
Oh, absolutely.
because if not, it's going to drive you insane. So
Yes.
as a director, you want to be able to, you know, speak to every parent. You want, that's your dream, right? As a
Yes.
director that's coming into a facility, their dream is to tap into the families, to tap into the children, to tap into, you know, the staff, and make sure that everything's running, so you know everybody by name. And you can still do that, but you have to learn how to delegate. And when we delegate, you also have to delegate connections.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, that's a learning curve for us.
Hmm.
That's something that we definitely, especially when people come into our facility, teachers, you know, parents, everything. That is, our facility is literally like, wow, we do things a little different, right?
Uh-huh.
We do things a little different.
Yes.
So the first thing I do, you know, I was in my center the first week of school, and I noticed, you know, the increase of Arabic families. And so I grabbed one of our families and I said, "Hey, how do you say goodbye in your language?" Very
Mm-hmm.
randomly, right?
Yes.
And she said it, and I said, "Can you write it here for me?" And I did a post-it right in the front door, like right in the front entrance.
Yes.
And I put goodbye in English. I
Yes.
put it in Spanish, obviously, because you know I'm Spanish. And then I posted Arabic there. And then I grabbed another family and I said, "Hey, how do you say good morning in
Yes.
Arabic?" And they said it, and I said, "Can you write it here?" And I made another wall. I made a word wall in
Yes.
my front door, just standing there talking to all my families, trying to connect.
Yep.
You know
That's
what I
it.
mean? Trying to
The
connect. Yes.
So with
And
you
what I
being a
did with,
Spanish-speaking woman, when someone greets you in your language, how does that feel versus it just automatically being in English?
oh my gosh, you know, it's amazing. And not only that, the families feel like they belong.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
feel like they belong. So this person took a moment to ask me something about
There
me,
we go.
my culture, right?
You
So I
feel seen.
grabbed
Yeah.
those, I grabbed those post-its, and as my teachers came down, I said, "Hey, take a picture of these. I would like to see these in your room. And
Uh-huh.
this is how you pronounce it." Right? So
Yep.
that's how you support, you know, one of the many, many
Yes.
tools that we use, right? Creating word walls. And this is to answer the question of the gentleman that from our last podcast.
Yep.
Um, you know, we have so many different families, so many demographic income levels. That's the reason why we mix funded, you
That's
know, all
that's
of our
another
classrooms,
diversity.
because it's so much
Yep.
more than just religion,
Absolutely.
right? It's so much more than just, you know, cultural and
Yep.
ethnical backgrounds and everything. We truly try to embrace everyone. And people that come into our center in our tours, that is
Mm-hmm.
the first thing we tell them. The core values of our organization is the diversity that we work for,
Yep. Yep.
right?
And
And
one
then the
of
first
the things is
place
the
we take
respect
them to is all those diversity awards that we won,
to
right?
show this is
To
what we
show.
actually do. It's not just on paper.
And
This
then we
is
bring them to the classrooms and then we
mm-hmm.
show them that. And so if a family enrolls, they already know what they're enrolling to,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
I think we had a conversation a few months ago. We talked about LGBTQ plus communities, and we also talked about gender neutral children that
Mm-hmm.
we also have, and we also have enrolled in our facility. And you know, our staff really struggled with that, right? That inclusion. So of course, apart
Yeah.
from the professional development that we would give them, and the materials and books and everything that we will provide them, you know, to be able to really support those children in their classroom and make them feel included. I also am really real.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody comes to me and say, "I'm really having a hard time accepting this," I say, "Why?" And you know, I listen to them, right? I listen to them,
Yeah.
but then I'm like, "Well, you don't have to like it. You just have to respect it.
That's
This
all.
is a child. This is a child that's coming through your door.
Yes,
And if you're looking at the child thinking about what their parents are doing in their bedroom, the problem is not the child, it's
that's
you.
the problem. We're just teaching. We're educating. We're caring. All of those things say the same.
Right.
It all.
Because, and I feel like people, once I say it that way, they're like, I
Mhm.
never thought about it that way. And sometimes we just got to be real with ourselves. We all biased in some
Yes.
way, some form, but we cannot show that in the classroom. We cannot show that when we are servicing children.
Yeah, absolutely. And that bias conversation is, I remember when I say years ago, having a training around biases, because sometimes, well, a lot of times, when you do the work to uncover the biases that you have, you don't even realize sometimes that you have them. And when you mentioned the diversity, I think you could even relate to the fact of, I don't think we talk about age enough, right? We have diversity in age as well. And you and I both have like the same, around the same age daughters. That generation is totally different from ours. So when you have multi generations, that's also diversity, a space that we have to respect because each generation approaches life differently. So that's yet another, right? So when we have younger parents come in or even older parents, that in itself, we have to find ways to be respectful. That's one of our core values as well. Is ours is respect for cultural differences and experiences. And what that means is we are that diverse. Again, like you said, it's not just about the ethnicity, but the diversity in so many different levels. Another thing we just realized, we already started no longer referring to parent, like parent meeting, parent engagement. It became
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
family
Family.
engagement.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Because all,
now
all families look different.
they all look different. And now ISIS
Right.
actually had another class and came back and was like, you know what? I just learned even about caregiver because not every person is
It's a
a
family.
family member. So
That's
these
right.
are all the ways. So I want to let you guys know that we're connecting, right? All of the cultural differences and the demographics. We're connecting all of that in this conversation because it looks so different today than it did years ago. And like Tamara said, the focus is making sure that our children, families, and staff feel like they belong to a space. And I know you mentioned we also had an increase at one point in our Arabic families, but we had so many of our Arabic staff refer friends of theirs from the Arabic
Mm-hmm.
state. So we had an increase in our staff as well. So I also had to figure out not just how to be respectful and understanding of the Arabic culture, but now I needed to understand how to have staff that was diverse. I will never forget. I had one of my admin members say, wasn't she really pointed it out, and I was happy she did because I didn't notice it. I wasn't saying it, but we had another staff person who just was like black girl magic, right? And right, we have black girl magic in there, but she
Uh-huh.
also,
Uh-huh.
I do feel a little left out sometimes because right. So just pointing it out that, and I'm
Listen.
all for celebrate. Like
I go through that too.
we
We
celebrate,
employ
yes,
yes,
we
we
celebrate our
do.
magic, but
We
I
watch what you
definitely don't
say,
want
yes.
someone else to feel it. And I know we talk about that in America a lot. Me shouting out and celebrating one does not mean that I'm not celebrating you. However, I do want to be cognizant of the fact that we are that diverse. And I was just happy that she shared it because she, at that time, was the only admin member who was not a black girl. And so
Yeah.
I was like, thank you for sharing. Thank you
And
for
you created a safe space.
yeah,
That's
we
another thing
appreciate
that needs to happen, especially when you're dealing with staff and you have employees in your organization, is to create a safe space and a platform to hold us accountable. We can't
yes,
say we provide DEI services and not have a safe space.
right,
We did a DEI meeting with families and and staff last year, and it ran the whole entire year. And through that, we created a DEI toolkit and the vision of the children's playhouse and how that's going to look like. And it was beautiful. It was parent led. It was parent and staff led,
Wonderful.
and we ended up adopting a whistleblower policy. How are the, and that was through that, organization. And I said, and my commitment to that meeting was, I am here to learn from you, to hear
Yes.
your suggestions on how we can become better. And I want you guys to hold me accountable for these certificates and these awards that I won,
Yes.
because I want to walk the talk. So
Yes.
when they did, and they mentioned the whistleblower policy, I said, let's do it. Immediately I jumped on it. So we got the whistleblower policy, the safe space. We did the mission statement for that. They did the mission statement. Like, everything that I adopted was because it came from parent led. But let me say this, as a Spanish owner, as a Hispanic owner, I personally deal with the the balance of
Mm-hmm.
making sure that my organization is not seen like a Spanish organization,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right? Because it
Mm-hmm.
happens a lot. A lot of people be like, well, let's go over here because that's a Spanish, No, we're not
Mm-hmm.
Spanish. We are a child care center that renders services to all
Yes.
families,
Yep.
not just one.
Yep.
Just because I'm Spanish does not mean this is a Spanish organization. We don't even give, I mean, our teachers speak Spanish to the kids, but that's not something I publicize,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So with that being said, that's one of the issues as being a Hispanic owner that I face, where families are like, "Oh, I'm coming to you because you're Spanish." No, come to me because I'm high quality,
There we go. Yeah.
right? Don't
Yeah.
come to me because I'm Spanish, because that's just dumb. You
Yeah.
know, to me it makes no sense, but I understand it. I understand that,
Yeah.
it's a culture. I understand my culture. They like to,
Mm-hmm.
they like to trust people of
Yep.
of their own cultures and so on and so forth. So I get it. But once they come into I call it the hook, right? Once they're in, I'm like, I don't even speak English. I don't even speak Spanish to them. I speak pure English on purpose. You know,
Yes. Yep.
on
Yeah.
purpose, So it's a lot of challenges. Going back to how do we do all this stuff, purchasing tons of books. I just had a
Mm-hmm.
staff member that said, "Oh, I need Nepali books." And I said,
Mm.
"Oh, that's interesting." And here I am on the internet searching for Nepali books. So if anybody's on this call and knows where I can find them, because I found one Nepali book, and that's that's horrible, guys.
Oh, wow.
That's horrible. If you tap into the resources, of we want to promote, being diverse in the sense of belonging and safe space, and
Yeah.
we don't even have resources
Yeah.
out there to support those missions.
And you're absolutely right. And I'm gonna tell you what came to mind. I'm gonna tell you what came to mind because sometimes we overthink things. I don't know. Were you on the podcast then when brother CEO Henry was on? He actually has his own schools. He has his own schools down, and they're about to open one in Atlanta. But they pretty much do everything themselves, meaning that the children themselves become authors and they write their own
Hmm.
books. So
Yep.
it came to mind was how powerful would it be if that family wrote books? And
Eh,
what I mean by that is right, it doesn't have to be this fancy thing, but creating a book that's telling maybe a basic story about the culture or about the family or something. Whereas though if once we read it, we now understand more about the culture. And
that
sometimes
would be that would be beautiful if we can get enough staff to come in and help support that, right? We have so many. First of all, we need funding.
oh always.
We need funding, right? So childcare, obviously it's not funded and we're always like left behind. But if we had the appropriate funding to be able to really support our children and
Hmm.
families, because this is a family thing,
Hmm.
right? it would be a beautiful thing. We could do the literacies. We can do, all this other stuff. Last week, we kicked off Hispanic Heritage Month, and we
Yes.
did a literacy festival, Hispanic literacy festival. And the goal with that was to provide Spanish and English subtitle books to Hispanic families, right, to
Mhm.
fill those gaps. And that was pretty, difficult to do, but I did find books, and I begged for books, and people donated books, and so on and so forth. But here's what was sad about this beautiful event, first time event. People from other states were reaching out to me from schools asking if we can do that in their cities, like Ohio, and the stories I was reading from them, like, we have a large population, we have no books for our students. And it
It's
makes me
starting to break
think
up a
of, like,
little bit.
how is this? Can you hear me
Can you
now?
hear me? It started breaking up a little bit.
Yes, I can hear you.
There we
Um,
go.
so 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 just it's just heartbreaking to know that there are so many children in schools, and I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure early childhood educators programs that are really going through the struggle, even finding the resources to be able
Yes.
to tap into supporting the demographics of families and children that they serve, from books,
Yes.
guys. Books.
Yes. Books.
Books. We're talking about Simple Fly books. People from Ohio were contacting me from schools. People from California were contacting me. These are pretty nifty states, right? Why are you not providing these resources to your teachers? It's
Mhm.
just ridiculous, but
Mhm.
I just wanted to say
We
that.
always have to talk about lack of resources. Like, I'm so
Yeah,
tired of talking about the lack all the time. It's exhausting. It's exhausting, right? Like,
it definitely
at
is.
first you
One final
think
thing, I
about
wanted to say this before I start driving again, but and before I lose internet again. But you said something really interesting, which was the age, right?
yes, yes.
Um, that's something I noticed in my program. For 2 years I've been monitoring that we didn't have grandparents participation as much. And in our organization, because our demographic is so different, but it's very strong led by grandparents, right? um,
Mm,
I needed to try to tap into that. So this year, I created a very holistic calendar, and very intentional, that the first week of school, I know my teachers hated me for this, but we celebrated Grandparents' Day. And it
oh,
was an
yes.
amazing event, because Grandparents' Day is actually, it is a thing, guys. It's Grandparents' Day. I think it's on the 10th or something like that, and of September. So I was very strategic about inviting them into our program, in which I we had a very huge turnout. And
Oh, I
guess
love
what?
it.
Guess what? The hook. Because as soon as they came to the program, we provided them with clearances. Let's do, make sure that these clearances are done. And guess what? We're looking for grandparent volunteers.
Oh, there we go. Let's see. Now we're tapping into our resources, right? Like,
No, we
oh my,
right. And
now we're
now,
tapping
guess what, guys? We started off the year with grandparent volunteers. I met my mission. Now the
there
goal is to
we go.
become sustainable. Yes.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
yes, we have to come up with holistic ways to use what we have, tapping into the
Yeah.
families we have, and being real about it, and
Yep.
executing the plans.
Yeah, and I think about my parents. It's something about when my kids are around. M- Actually, my mom has a twin, and her brother is actually in like uh, uh, a home, if you will. She talks about all the time, when my kids get to go, they light up, right? And that's many different demographics, but the grandparents having children around, or older people having children around, or even the children having elder people around, it is just a blessing for both sides. And so to have them come in was genius. My kids' school have a grand friends day every year. Amazing turnout. Um, I still have like the picture when my mom and dad first went to the school. My dad passed since, so but my mom always makes sure that she go. But it is such an honor for all of to see all the grand friends, and I love that they do that too, as grand friends, because you don't
Yes,
necessarily have to be a
a
grandparent to
grandparent, right?
literally be an older person in their life, and they're just in your life. So we want to celebrate you too, and they come and that's their day to just kind of interact and have fun and draw and art and all of that. And that was so smart. That was really smart because
And
a lot of times they have 2 to 3 hours to give, and how much of a blessing is it also to the children? Like
it
just a,
truly is. It's so amazing. And here, my favorite part of Grand Friends Day is, or when a grandparent comes in or a grandfriend comes in to volunteer, is not the read alouds. I usually tell them, tell us a folk tale.
oh my gosh, yes, yeah,
I don't want you to
oh
do
my
read
goodness.
aloud. I want you to tell us your life. I want you to tell us about a time that you felt,
Oh, that's good.
happy about being a kid. What
Yes.
did you do when you was younger to play with dolls? Listen, I know that when I was a child, and I'm 50 years old, right? I'm a grandparent. I
Uh-huh.
used to make mud pies. Like we didn't have toys,
Oh,
you know.
Damaris.
Yeah.
I made the best mud pies there is now.
Yeah, listen, I
Okay.
went outside and I pretended and I made mud pies. I had one doll and I dressed that doll with buttons
Yeah.
and those are the stories that I want our children. I love listening to. I had a grandparent that she's Jewish and she sold or knitted or something like that
Hmm.
for like towards I don't know what she would do, but it was a really great like story. And then the kids were asked, well, what's knitting? Now we can go into that, like, this is what knitting is, this
Yeah.
is what making homemade butter is, this is what so those stories need to come back alive. And those stories unfortunately are not found in books. So when
No.
they come in, I always say, tell us a folk tale. Tell
Yeah.
us a time in your life.
Beautiful.
What did you do when you was a child? What did you? And those are the best
I
stories
love
ever. So, yeah.
you're absolutely right. And those are it makes me think, my husband and I talk about it all the time, that a lot of times we don't get the stories from our parents and grandparents as much as we should. And
Yes.
it's these stories, right? Because that is really a part of our history. That's how they pass down information and family history and all of that. Stories were told. And that doesn't happen any longer. That does
Nope.
not happen. I love that. I love that. And how amazing would it be? Again, I'm really thinking outside the box too of that. How amazing would it be? And even when I said about making the book, it don't have to be hardcover. It doesn't have to be all over the top. I don't care if it has little. Remember how we used to put the whole
Right, 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 right.
in and but if now I remember, because I wish I had the picture in here, but the picture's in my office sitting up on my thing of when they went to Grand Friends Day, and it is just a memory of them coming in. So what if our schools had memories of, you know, elders coming, families coming in and leaving behind a story that you just have a collection of past stories. Isn't that a huge part of our legacy too?
Well,
Is
let me say this to end, not to end, but definitely to add to that.
mm-hmm.
I did a pilot program probably about 15 years ago, and it was funded. I received instant cameras, right? And
Oh, the little
we did a
color
pilot.
plate.
Yes, we did like 20. I think it was about 20 families, and it was a grant that we received.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to feed the families to come in. They met with us. I think it was about five times. They got to get cameras. They went out with their children. They took pictures, right? So it forced the families to go out and take some really magical pictures. And then we came back. Those pictures still, we developed those films, and then we got together. I think it was 5 times. We gave them dinner, and they came with their children and they created books on those pictures with their children that we binded their books,
Here we go.
right? We
Yes.
created the books, and that was their own book. They created a book with children. We
Exactly.
don't have things like that, and we don't have those resources anymore. So
Nope.
if anybody's on the call and is a philanthropist and would like to donate or support that cause, please do
Please.
that. Our children need that. Our families need that.
They
Our
do.
grandfriends need that. They belong. They belong. That is belonging. That
There we
is
go.
how we support our families.
There we go.
So I just want to, I always have to end with an ask.
Yeah.
That's my ask.
There we go.
Bring the
Philanthropy.
magic, bring
Yeah.
philanthropy, right? Bring the magic back into our early childhood programs.
There we
We
go.
have so much to give with nothing to be able to do it with.
Yeah. You're right.
Not little, nothing, right?
Yes.
We have great ideas. We Can you just imagine a child with their grandfriend, or connecting, in the school environment to create these books. We got literacy, we got math, we got photography, we got everything in there. That exposure
Yep.
is what will bring our children to the next level.
There we go. That's it. That's community, and that's you mentioned back in the day with the mud pies, all of that. That's exactly. We literally have a mud kitchen in our yard. That's why,
Yep.
because I just remember playing in it. But those memories, I'm sure for you as well, is really what helped create what we built, right? Like I always talk about my mom, the stuff that she did 40 years ago, she still does today. It's the memories that ultimately got us where we are today and why we still do what we do. So as we are wrapping up, I want you guys to really just take a step back and think about. We always talk about, like core values, mission, your why. It always stands. It always stands. But let that be the foundation. And after that, I want you guys to start thinking about and looking at the tapestry, the makeup of your business. Who are you serving? Who are you serving? Ask them questions. Find out more. What are their traditions? Ask them to come in and share with you guys. Right? Everything doesn't have to be technology. It doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes it is a simple ask, just like Damaris just asked. Is there anyone watching who can? Right? Send out a
Right.
message to your families. Do we have any artists, or do we have? We ask our families first. We have
Yes.
so many people who do so many things. Ask your families, what do they have to give? And when I say have to give, I'm not just talking about money, because
Nope.
time
Time.
is time
Time.
is one of the most
Time.
precious resources. It's the time and the presence, and they can really be the difference in your program, going from an enrollment of being at 50% enrolled to 75 to 90 to 95. Because here's the thing, they will never forget how you made them feel, and that feeling
Absolutely.
is what they pass
Absolutely.
on to the next person. They like, hold on, you need to send your child here. Let me tell you about this program. That is how you fill your programs. It's not about flyers, guys. It is about how you make people feel. And so find out who you're serving, and like show interest and belonging. Make sure they feel seen, and then they will feel that, and again they'll pass it on. And not only that, then they'll stay. And then you do the same for your staff. Do not forget about your staff, right? They are important as well. Make them feel seen
Absolutely.
as well. Make sure you understand who they are, what their culture is, their traditions. We already know when Ramadan is coming around, we're already like up, because we know that they have to celebrate. Some celebrate one day, two, three. We start to understand what it is that they require for them to be with their families and do the things that's important to them. And when you show up for them, they show up for you. Those
Absolutely.
those are enrollment boosting strategies as well as retention strategy. And I promise you, those experiences, they don't go away. Okay. That's my
Let me.
soapbox moment. Did you
That
share?
is a soapbox. That was great. That was a great ending. And I just want to leave you guys with one more thing. Be the change you want to see happen in this world.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's a mic drop. Okay. That's the Impact Podcast for you guys. Thank you so much, Damaris. I know you are traveling back. I appreciate you connecting. Our sister
No
Obiami will
problem.
be connecting with us on the next episode. I want you guys, once you find out some more information about who you're serving, share it with us so that we can, all understand who we are all serving. You might find out something new that can help us, and maybe we have some information that can help you. Before we go, I learned, oh my goodness, listen to what your families are saying. We kept having families say, my kids don't eat meat. My kids don't eat meat. I'm like, you're telling me all of these families are vegetarian? No, those were our Arabic families. And what they really were
Hmm.
saying, because I was familiar with the Muslim culture, I was like, let me ask them, is it because the meat is not halal? And that's actually
Yes,
what it was. That's what it was.
that's what it was.
That's
Yeah.
it was. So listen to what your families are saying and ask questions, okay? Because I'm telling you, they're telling you what they need. So we appreciate you for joining us. If you have a topic that you want us to cover, let us know. Join in with us. Send us some comments, and we'll connect with you. Until next time, stay impacting not only your household, your family, but the person next to you so that they can impact the person next to them. And ultimately, we're impacting the world because that's what we do. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.